Yeah, I went to get the test. I actually got it down to the doctor. I said, you need to point that.
Welcome to your club. Thank you for showing up. I'd like to get this front row filled.
Well, my spouse is coming down too, so. Isn't that powerful? I've read it before.
Snap my bra.
Good morning.
Good morning, all.
Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Charlotte County, also known as UUFCC. I would like to acknowledge that we're meeting on the land of the Calusa. I am Laura Anderson, the worship associate this morning. My pronouns are she, her. I am a cisgender, 66-year-old, well-fed Caucasian woman. I have my shoulder-length silver and purple hair up in a bun this morning. I'm wearing a white shirt with a black diamond-shaped geometric decoration on it. This service is being streamed live on YouTube this morning. The recording will also be available on the UUFCC YouTube channel after the service. I'm obliged to remind you of a couple of procedures. Turn your cell phone ringers off. In the building, please wear a mask and continue to be aware of social distancing. If you are here watching virtually with us, you might want to have a chalice or a candle available if you wish to join us in lighting the chalice this morning. I wish to express gratitude for all who have made this service possible. Greeters, decorators, cleaners, baristas, techies. I would also like to extend a welcome to our speakers this morning, representing the Legal Aid Service. Everyone is welcome here, whatever your faith or the country of your heritage. You are welcome here. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are welcome here. Whether you are relatively new to our community or have been an active member for decades, you are welcome here. We are glad that you chose this congregation as your place of worship this morning. If you are new to us today, and if you are comfortable doing so, please stand, embody your spirit, and wave so we can welcome you. Would you tell us your names?
I'm Chuck Baumgartner, and this is my wife, Sally.
Welcome.
Thank you.
If you'd like to learn more about our fellowship, you can visit our website, uufcc.org. I hope you find our service meaningful this morning. We will now open our sacred space by lighting a chalice. This ritual is done by Unitarian Universalists throughout the world. Our chalice lighting words this morning are from the Reverend Eric Wickstrom. Here, today, in this place, and with these people, may we listen so that we can hear. May we hear so that we can feel. May we feel so that we can know. May we know so that we can change ourselves and this world. May this chalice we light our way. Dennis is going to come forward and light our chalice. We're not using the screen this morning, and perhaps all of you have not memorized the affirmation. So I'll say the words first and ask you to repeat the phrases after me. Love is the spirit of this fellowship.
Love is the spirit of this fellowship.
And service is its law.
And service is law.
This is our aspiration.
This is our aspiration.
To dwell together in peace.
To dwell together in peace.
To seek truth in love.
To seek truth in love.
And to help one another.
And to help one another.
Thank you. I'm going to make you work this morning. And now Jim will share the prelude, Roll, Jordan, Roll, which was arranged by Peter Wolf. Our opening words this morning are a responsive reading. Some of you have those on a handout. They Say, I'm Illegal by Reverend Julia Hamilton, who is the minister of the Unitarian Society in Santa Barbara. This reading starts with you reading the part that's in italics.
They say I'm illegal.
But so is anyone who ever rolled through a stop sign, jaywalked, or threw trash on the ground. Not having a visa is a civil infraction, not a federal crime.
They say I'm here to take your job.
But the jobs are often backbreaking and underpaid, and we are exploited by those who could never find a U.S. citizen to work under such conditions.
They say that I bring drugs with me.
But it is U.S. consumers buying the drugs and U.S. weapons in the hands of the desperate.
They say I'm here to follow our citizens.
But I pay taxes too, yet I live in a shadow economy that denies me of the benefits of a secure old age and medical care if I get hurt on the job.
They say that English is the only language worth speaking.
But the true heritage of the United States is diversity, and I add my words and my traditions to the culture that enriches us all.
They say I'm here because I have a baby.
But can you remember another mother who braved hardship and danger to bring her baby safely into this world? Can you deny Mary or Maria the right to fight for a better life for her child?
They say that you will know I am illegal because I work with and glossy jeans.
But what about the student who overstays her visa? The artist who cannot marry his American boyfriend, or the grandmother who cares for the baby while the mother works? We may not all wear boots. We may have come from many countries, and yet we are alike. But you are not diminished if I am raised up. Humanity is enriched when we climb together toward the light. Life is not a zero-sum game. Thank you. Please rise in body or spirit and join the choir in singing our opening hymn, number 359 in the gray hymnal, When We Are Gathered. We have a long tradition at UUFCC of sharing our joys, sorrows, and life milestones by entering them into the Book of Life. These events are sacred, hallowing the living of our days. Messages can be written in the Red Book, which is at the back of the sanctuary, or emailed to the Book of Life at uufcc.org. Thank you, Cheryl. This morning, we are happy to see some of us who are back healthy from COVID. We are sad that some of us are still missing, and please try to keep safe. Besides COVID, we have a terrible flu virus going around right now. Today is a joyful day for another reason, and that is this afternoon, we are moving our family that is seeking asylum into their new home. And Trish will tell us more about that a little bit later in the service. Please hold these and all those you hold sacred in your heart as we have a moment of silence, followed by Vocalise by Rachmaninoff. It is my pleasure this morning to welcome Eloise Ayala and Jacqueline Cornell from the Legal Aid Society.
Hi, so I am Jacqueline Cornell, as mentioned. Thank you all so much for having us here today. Eloise is our supervising attorney. I'm just a staff attorney, so I'll get things started and then she can take over. So really quick, just to introduce myself just a little bit, I used to be a teacher. I taught high school Spanish, and I loved my job, and I loved my students so much. And every year we would plan this trip to go to Puerto Rico with our advanced students. And there was this one girl, and I loved her so much. She was so smart and so bright and just so kind and respectful and witty and funny. And I couldn't understand why she wasn't signing up for the trip. And as we grew closer over the school year, one of the days she stayed after class a little bit, and she looked at me and she said, "Señora Coronel, Mrs. Cornell," and she had shame in her eyes. And she said, "I'm undocumented." My mom is from Colombia, and we got to come through the front door because my grandfather was a doctor. But this girl, who was just as bright and wonderful as the next immigrant beside her, had come a different way. And her life was going to be very, very, very different. And she said, my mom cleans houses, and everybody I know is signing up for college applications and applying for schools, and they make D's and F's and they're going to college, and I make straight A's, and I'm gonna go and clean houses for $4 an hour, and that's gonna be my life. And that broke me, and that changed something in my heart. And I didn't know what to do about it, but I started looking online. I looked online like crazy. I found out about this program called DACA, and I helped her sign up for it. I put a movie on for the class one day, and I showed her in the back of my classroom what DACA was, and it's this Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. And I told her to go home and tell her mom about it and to sign up, and she did. Later on, she got married to a U.S. citizen, and now she's on her way with her 2, almost 3 beautiful children, and things are great for her. So I'm so thankful for that. But that changed something in me that day, and I knew that I wanted to do something about it. I didn't know what to do, but I figured if I went to law school that I would have a much better idea. And so I changed careers. I dragged my whole family to Naples, Florida. I have 2 beautiful daughters that we adopted from foster care. My husband's a saint for letting me do that and for being such a good father. But just like my little girls needed help, there are so many unaccompanied minors that come in. There are so many adults that come in that need our help. And when these 2 sweet little ladies came all the way down to Immokalee, Florida to take us to lunch one day, and they said that you guys were going to sponsor a family, I said, well, we've just got to go and meet this church that decided that they're going to sponsor some strangers to come here. And so I feel so blessed and so honored to be here with you all. Just to tell you a little bit about legal aid, it's called Legal Aid Service of Collier County. We have different units. Of course, we are part of the immigration unit, but we also have a consumer unit. They work with elderly, Social Security, disability, bankruptcy, mortgages. We have a domestic abuse unit, and so of course they help, with restraining orders. They help the women or men to or others to move forward. We have a kids unit. They mostly help with the abused children in the community. We have a tax unit. They help with IRS disputes and debts. We have a pro bono unit that handles the things that the attorneys within our organization aren't able to handle. And then of course we have a small business unit, and then of course we have immigration. So in our immigration unit, there are 3 attorneys. So we're super blessed. It's probably the most amount of attorneys we've ever had. And so we have Eloise Ayala, of course, our supervisor, and then myself and Elisa Wapia Meron, who has little babies, so she's not allowed. She wasn't able to come with us today, but I know that she's with us, like in spirit. She loves what we do, and we're all really, really good friends. And so we love working together. We also have 2 paralegals. One is Ana Rivera, and she She has about 25 years of experience working with immigration law, so she is fabulous and wonderful. We're all bilingual, at least bilingual. We have Eduardo, who's our intake specialist. I don't even know if he knows how many languages he speaks, but somewhere between 7 or 8, I think. So he is quite the asset. I in particular work specifically with victims of crimes. And so I do a lot of work with U visas. U visas are for people who suffer pretty severe crimes here in the United States and then are willing to cooperate with the police. So a lot of times what happens, and I saw this in my church community back in Tallahassee, that's where I originated from, but there were this beautiful family, and they were Mexican, and they were undocumented, and their house got robbed by their neighbors, and their house got robbed again by their neighbors, and their house got robbed again by their neighbors. And I said, why are you not calling the police? And they said, if we call the police, we'll be the ones in trouble because we don't have papers. And I didn't know any better at the time, and so that just broke my heart, and I remembered that. But then I learned about this whole U visa thing. And if you're a victim of a severe crime, then you can call the police and you can get help. And if you cooperate with the police, eventually that can actually lead to a path to become, a legal permanent resident, to get that green card, and eventually potentially to become a citizen for that victim and sometimes their qualifying family members. So we also work with VAWAs. It's the Violence Against Women Act. But it also works for men too. And typically what we see is a lot of times we'll have a woman who comes from another country, maybe, less economically blessed than others, and she'll marry an American. And then he turns out to not be the Prince Charming that she thought he was, and things get violent. And so they don't want to leave because they've given up so much to come to the United States of America, and they thought they were going to live their lives here, and they thought they were going to be happy and live happily ever after, but that's not happening. And so we're able to help them to see that, look, if you're abused, you don't have to stay in that relationship. You can leave, and the government does not necessarily take away your papers. You can stay in the United States of America. If you entered into that marriage with good faith, and there's some other qualifications as well, then you can stay. And especially it gets complicated when they have children together, and the man or the woman, whoever is doing the threatening and the abuse, will threaten to say, if you leave me, I'm going to keep the child. And so you go back to your country, and I'll stay here with the child. And of course, the parents, they don't want to leave their children, so they stick around in the abusive relationships. So we're super blessed to be able to show them that that's not the case, that abuser is lying. We also work with asylum, and I know asylum is something that's near and dear to your hearts. One of the things to keep in mind is that on the spectrum of immigration law, you have family-based petitions, and those are the easiest. So my husband is from Argentina, and I was born in the United States. So when we decided to get married, I did like a fiance visa, and he came in, and took about a year, but it wasn't that hard. Then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have asylum. Asylum is probably one of the hardest immigration reliefs to obtain. And so asylum, you have to show that you were persecuted in your home country, or in, a country for which you're a citizen. It's a little bit more complicated, as legalese always is. But basically in your home country that you were persecuted. And that can be based on a lot of things. It could be political opinion. It could be particular membership in a particular group. It could be... it can be so many different things, but what we see a lot of is sexual orientation. The past 2 cases that we've won have been based on sexual orientation. We had 2 separate cases. They were Honduran clients who, Honduras, if you haven't heard, it's one of the 7 most dangerous countries for people within that LGBTQ, etc. Community. And so for them to go back to that country is extremely dangerous. And so we were really fortunate to have those people come to our office and to confide in us to be able to help them. We don't charge clients. Everything that we do is free for the clients. If there's a fee for the government, then they have to, they have that responsibility. But we're able to provide that legal service for them free of charge, thanks to a lot of donations from good people and from good organizations. So one of the cases that when I first started the law firm, we were working on, and we're still helping these families a lot, is there's this school teacher, and he took advantage of a lot of the kids. There's at least 20 kids that have come forward, and they were abused sexually and emotionally by their elementary school teacher. And he specifically preyed on the undocumented, the kids that had undocumented parents. And, he would say, if you say anything, I'm going to call the police and your parents are going to get deported. And so these precious little kids who were 6, 7, 8, 9 years old endured this abuse at school and on the soccer field, some for years, until finally one of our brave little clients, she went forward and she told somebody at the school, she told an adult what was happening. And then the stories just came forward and came forward and came forward of how many children he had been abusing and taking advantage of all these years, and how he had groomed them and tricked them and offered them prizes like a trip to McDonald's so that he could take them away from the school and do terrible things, which we won't name here because you guys seem like such fine folks. I don't want to say the things that happened. But we get to work with these beautiful people. My birthday is, my name's Jacqueline. My birthday is the day before Halloween, so like a jack-o'-lantern. But this client who had been through so much, she remembered my birthday recently. And so she came to the office and she brought me like some chocolates and like a little cup and a beautiful letter from her daughter, the one who was the victim. And the daughter was actually a U.S. citizen, but we were able to help her mother with this U visa program. So there's a lot going on in the world right now. I was talking to Eloise about how, we couldn't possibly tell you everything that's going on in immigration law in 20 minutes, but we do want to, just kind of, I guess, tell you a little bit from the heart about the things that we do. And I was looking at your website this week and I saw the 7 principles, and I love all of them, but I really love the first. And it says, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. And when I was in law school, our school was really big on, I went to a Catholic law school. I'm not Catholic, but I love Catholics and I love everybody. And they were really big on human dignity. And so I feel really fortunate that I got to go to law school that was really focused on that human dignity. And when I read your first of the 7 principles, I thought, wow, I'm just going to the right place tomorrow. I read this part last night. And so I'm so thankful for all that you guys do. It broke my heart coming in and seeing how impacted you guys were by Hurricane Ian. But there's such a sense of resilience, and I love coming in here and seeing so many smiles that even when times are hard, just like our immigrant clients, when times are hard and they're suffering, and they come in with a little box of chocolates because they remembered my birthday when the last time I spoke with them was probably months ago, that they took that time out. That's the same spirit that I see in you guys, and so I'm so thankful to be here before you. As far as the asylum process, typically what happens is once you step foot in the United States, you have 1 year to apply for asylum. There's exceptions to that, but it gets pretty complicated. So within that first year, you want to apply for asylum. Now, where it gets also complicated is that you have to wait 150 days from after you applied for asylum, which is a pretty complicated process, to be able to apply for a work permit. So if you truly came to the United States with nothing, and we've talked to people and we've read about people who crossed the desert, walking with one baby in their hand and carrying the other, and they had a bottle of water and a can of tuna, and they crossed the desert, and then they get here and they're not allowed to work for 150 days, not legally anyway. And so our own government kind of puts these immigrants, unfortunately, in a hard situation where they're not able to work for those 150 days. And right now, because of COVID delays or other reasons, it actually is taking more than a year to get those work permits. So they have to come in, apply for asylum, which is a process, then wait 150 days for that work permit, and then potentially wait a whole year just to even get that work permit finally. And so it's a lot more complicated of a process than maybe people realize. But heaven bless you guys for doing it and for stepping up and for trying to help these people. They'll be so thankful, this family, to have you. So that's kind of what's going on with the immigration law. There's different kinds of asylum. There's one where you're in the court system and one where you're not. The one where you're in the court system is mostly what we end up working with, but we work with both. And they can take years. It can take years to get asylum. And it's really heartbreaking to see some of the cases that don't win. We had a client who, he was Haitian. And in his country of Haiti, his dad had a church, and people would persecute the church. And they would actually throw human fecal matter into the church on a regular basis. They would graffiti the church. They would break the doors. They would break the windows. They would throw rocks on the ceiling. Can you imagine if we were sitting in here right now and people were just throwing rocks on the ceiling? That's what they endured every week when they would go to church. And he, gangs tried to recruit him, and he resisted because he said he did not want to. They, beat him and put him in a 3-day coma. Then burned his mom's house, killed her for speaking out against them. And in the end, the judge didn't give him asylum. So asylum is a complicated process, and it definitely needs reform. But we feel blessed to be on the side that's fighting for justice, because we truly love our clients. We truly love the things that we're able to do. Even something as simple as they have to bring passport-style photos. And it costs about $16 to get passport-style photos. And when you're a family of 4 and you use 16 times 4 and you have nothing because they took it away when you cross the border, that's a really hard thing to get. It's just something as simple as, $16 times 4 can make a big difference for these families. It can make it where they can apply for asylum sooner or later. We're just so, I don't want to keep going because I know that Eloise, you guys want to hear from Eloise. She's like the main show here. But I am so thankful for you guys. And asylum and immigration in general isn't something that we're going to fix overnight, but we definitely want to be part of the solution. And that's why I went to law school, and that's why I'm a lawyer today, is so that I can be part of the difference to help people. Not because it's my duty to help people, but because I love people.
Well, I'm not sure what I'm going to say after that, right? So good morning, everyone, and thank you for having us here and allowing us to share a little bit of what we do every day and a little bit of our background. Oh, yes. Sorry. My name is Eloise Ayala, and I am the supervising attorney for the Immigration Unit at Legal Aid Service of Collier County. Also, we are sister organization with Legal Aid Service of Broward County. So we go as far as Fort Lauderdale in helping clients every day, just as what she said. So, see, I'm going to talk about asylums. You should beat me to it. No, I'm just kidding. So I do want to point out, though, a few statistics. We do a lot of removal work as well. U visas, VAWAs, asylum, but we also do removal. That means people who are placed in removal proceedings, in other words, the government is actively trying to deport that person out of the country. So when you're in removal proceedings, you're in a courthouse and the judge is there, and the judge is the one that determines whether you stay or not. And that's based on some other basis or underlying application, just such as VAWA, U visa, or asylum. And there's other forms, for example. But just to give you a little insight, our judges in Miami, which is, by the way, we only have 2 courthouses in Florida for immigration, Orlando and Miami. So Orlando serves like Midway Point up, and Miami pretty much the south area. So a lot of our clients have to travel 2-3 hours sometimes. Most of the judges have a 4%, 6%, 9% approval rate, which means that of all the asylum applications they see, the thousands that they see, 4% is being approved. 6%, 9%. Why? Right? Just like she told you the story of a Franco or Haitian client, you heard the facts. Why, right? So asylum is a very, very complicated process, and it's very, very difficult. And it's very important to have an attorney behind you as a client to be able to represent all these issues and all these facts. And even like that, only 4% will be approved. And that's the sad part. Now let me talk to you, for example, about New York. They have like an 80% rate approval, right? So you see the difference. It's all over the country. It's very unequal. It's not even though it's federal law. Immigration is federal law. It should be even across the 50 states. That said, I want to talk to you about one of my dear clients. His name is Federico, and he has 5 U.S.-born children. And one of them was born with medical conditions which required a kidney transplant. But before that, he was in the hospital for a year with dialysis treatments until they were able to find that kidney donor. And this family of 5 endured for years having to go to Miami to the hospital back and forth. Mom and dad are undocumented. He gets stopped for driving without a license, and he gets arrested and put in immigration detention. And so he's now suddenly in removal proceedings. And can you imagine what would happen to this family if he is removed from the United States? Who will financially seek for them, protect them, and help mom with all these medical treatments and medical appointments and children going back and forth? And that's where we come in, and we presented Federico in front of the judge, and we told him, look, Federico has been here for over 15 years. His children were born here. Some of them don't even know Spanish. You have to, let us show you that he deserves to stay. And that's, by the way, that's called the cancellation defense. And you have to be able to show that you've been here at least 10 years, that you possess good moral character, and that you have a qualifying member, such as his 5 U.S.-born children, who would suffer extreme and unusual hardship. And those are the terms of art, extreme and unusual. And sometimes even a child who's gone through so many medical treatments, who still requires so much medical attention, is still not enough to show extreme and unusual hardship. Fortunately for him, though, we had his doctor, who was, I believe, the head of the Nicholas Hospital in Miami. He was able to testify for that hearing and really made a difference. And he was granted his case, and he's on his way to become a U.S. resident. And like those 20 victims that Jacqueline mentioned, most of their parents were undocumented, and we were able to also apply for their U visas. And U visa takes 5 years, by the way. So meanwhile, they're in this limbo place. And eventually, when they get approved, 4 years after that, they'll be able to apply for residency. So we hope that one day, all of the people we're mentioning today will become residents and citizens. Let's see. I want to give you a little background about myself and how I came to this position. It was actually, I think it's just fate. My mom was born Mexican and my dad's Colombian. My mom came to the United States when she was 18 and eventually became a citizen. And when I was just a little baby, she found herself to be a single mom and decided to go back to Mexico, where all her family was, and was able to, support her. And so I actually learned Spanish first, everything as a normal Mexican girl, even though I was born in Wisconsin. And so when my mom decided to come back when I was 7, I went through the whole steps. It was like any other immigrant. I had to learn English. I had to learn everything, culture. I was able to experience firsthand what it means. I can't say it was the same because after all, I was a citizen. But what I'm saying is that I think that what that happened right there put me in this path since I was a little girl. And I knew I was heading off to immigration law before I even went into law school. I obtained an immigration law office job. I mean, it was just path. It was just put there. Even though I tried to steer, it was put again in front of me. And in the last moment, I found myself in Orlando after law school in a business immigration law firm where investor visas, they were charging 20 grand, 30 grand. And I wasn't finding that job rewarding. I wanted to do more. I wanted to help those that didn't have the 20 grand or the 30 grand. And I applied for this position. And originally, my first position was as an unaccompanied minor fellow, where I was only to help unaccompanied minors who cross the border. And moving from Orlando to Naples, though, was a challenge. And I was looking at $7 grand expense. And back then, Sister Marine, and I don't know, maybe you've heard of her, I'm not sure, was really, really passionate about hiring me and putting me in that position. And when I told her, listen, I want to take it, but I don't have the $7 grand to make the move, she said, don't you worry, here's the $7 grand. You get your butt here and help us. She saw something. And like I said, it's just the path. When the doors open, that's where I go. And so I've been on this path for now 6 years. I've been with Legal Aid Service of Collier County for 6 years, and that's why I'm the supervising attorney. I've learned a lot, and I can tell you that this position is really, really rewarding. It can be, what's the word? Disheartening at times when we lose cases like Franco's, when out of hundreds of cases that we have, we know we can only win a couple dozen. But, keeping in mind that even changing one life at a time is making a difference. And that's the message I wanted to convey to you today is we're here to help, and we all should be helping each other, loving each other. And that's the message for today, that no matter what we are, where we come from, how we got here, love each other, help each other. And lastly, what you can do to help this cause and many other causes is, look into your local nonprofit organizations. I know there is a nonprofit organization nearby that does immigration work as well. Volunteer time. We're always looking for people who could help, for example, our clients practice their English for their citizenship path, or just in general. Someone to take them to that Miami courthouse, which is 3 hours away. And at least from Immokalee, some people are charging $200 just to take them. Volunteer any way you can. We're always open. Our doors are always open for volunteers and donations. As Jacqueline mentioned, we work based on grants, both by the state or the government, and donations, and other nonprofit organizations who also donate to our cause. Our organization is one of the few in the Southwest Florida area who actually goes to Miami and represents people in removal. Most other organizations do not go as far as that. They only do paper applications. So again, whatever you can do to help, we're here to listen as well. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you for giving us a clear picture of the situation of so many in Florida and in our country. Perhaps we can take comfort in our next song. Please stand in body or spirit for hymn number 205 in the gray hymnal, Amazing Grace.
Amen.
I think we sounded pretty good. In our tradition, congregations exist because of the generous support of members and friends. It is our privilege and our responsibility to ensure the health and future of this fellowship. To this end, your offerings support the ministry of this fellowship, whether by pledge or donation, and may be offered online. There are several ways you can give. You can drop a donation in the basket that will be passed around by the greeters. You can mail a check to the office. You can use the Venmo app. Payments there are identified as UUFCC offering. Whatever method you use, please note the purpose of your donation, if it's for the pledge or a special offering, such as the second helping. If you are here with us for the first time, please do not feel obligated to give. Your presence is our gift. Today is the second Sunday, and as is our tradition, we will collect a second offering this morning. Helen will share a little information about our second helping today. Our second helping this morning is going to support the Legal Aid Society, as well as CHAPS, Meals on Wheels, and the Harry Chapin Food Bank. Number 402 in the gray hymnal.
I
It's time in our service for the life of the community. First, I'd like to invite Patricia Lane to share some exciting news with us.
Thanks, Laura. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. As some of you know, thanks, Sharon. As some of you know, the Immigration Justice Committee has for the last probably 2 months been in a discernment process regarding participation in the UU Service Committee's program called CAPAS. Program started in 2019, and it stands for Congregational. I've made that mistake many times. Congregational. Congregational Accompaniment Project for Asylum Seekers. We've educated ourselves about asylum. We've spoken at length with the CAPAS project manager. We've spoken at length with 2 representatives of 2 congregations who are on their second asylum-seeking family. We identified a host family, Kathy and I, and we've started a fundraising plan and begun to identify potential partners as we go forward. So we thought we might be matched by CAPAS in February or March. So Betty, who I don't see, was approached, and this is a small world kind of thing. Someone from Michigan was visiting and knew someone from Indivisible in Englewood, or not in Englewood, I'm sorry, the Southwest Indivisible, and they reached out. They went home, told an interfaith group about a family they had met, a Venezuelan family they had met in the shelter that needed help. The shelter was a temporary shelter post-hurricane that was going to close November 15th. We did a lot of soul searching, the core of us. Could we do this fast enough? How would we do this? And decided we could do it. And, have gotten the support of the board and are moving forward. The good news is the family moves in this afternoon, right ahead of their November 15th deadline. I think of it as they fell in our laps. Anyway, the good news was that CAPAS allows us to make our own match. They were going to match us. And so we will still have the support of the CAPAS program, which we think will be really important. We hope many of you will join us on our journey. We're going to need volunteers to teach the mom English, to transport the mom, to take them on recreational outings, particularly before the kids are on a wait list now as of Friday, thanks to Murray and Kathy, with Head Start. And we're trying to jump the list a little bit because the need is so great. But we don't have a yard, folks. We're in a paired villa, so we really need the recreation. We're near a playground. We're near a park. Betty's going to create a list of all the wonderful things she's done with Matthias, who's only 5. So these kids are 2 and 5. We also are going to need help with fundraising. We have legal and medical covered. However, legal being our friends behind us. However, Kathy learned yesterday from Mom that she needs to see an eye doctor. She's having bad headaches and her eyes hurt. And my concern is, Calvin, I've talked about it, and because she experienced violence and political persecution, what if something's wrong? So if you guys know of any optometrist who would see someone pro bono, that would be wonderful. Let us know. And we need to find 2 more quickly, because we do, Kappas has a $5,000 matching grant. But once the money's gone, the money's gone. So we're really working on that. We're going to do a service later on December, who is with the UU Service Committee and very knowledgeable of this program, is going to do the service. If you guys have any questions before the 18th, Betty, Myrna,